When most people picture a samurai, they picture a man, armor, a katana. The image is so fixed in popular imagination that it has quietly erased an entire parallel history. The women of feudal Japan who trained in combat, led armies, defended castles, and died on battlefields were not exceptional curiosities. They were a class, they had a name. They had a weapon designed specifically for them. And they fought in numbers that the written historical record, almost entirely produced by men, chose not to fully preserve. This is the story of the Onna-bugeisha. And it is long overdue, stay with this, because the stories of these women changes the way the entire samurai era looks in our historical lens. The term Onna-bugeisha translates literally to woman warrior. These women belonged to the bushi, the noble warrior class of feudal Japan, and between the 12th and 19th centuries, upper-class women of this class were trained in the art of war and expected to fight alongside the samurai to defend their homes, families, and honor. The training was real. The weapons were real. The battles were real. What was not real was the assumption, carried forward into modern popular history, that the samurai world was entirely male. The Onna-bugeisha were trained to use a weapon specifically designed for Japanese female warriors, the naginata. A versatile polearm with a curved blade at the tip, its length gave the Onna-bugeisha better balance given their smaller stature. The naginata was not a compromised version of a male weapon. It was engineered for the specific body and fighting style of women trained in its use from childhood. In skilled hands, at close quarters, it was one of the most lethal weapons in feudal Japan's arsenal. A woman who had trained with a naginata since adolescence was not at a disadvantage against a larger opponent. The reach of the weapon neutralized the gap. During the peaceful years of the Edo period, the naginata became a symbol of status and often formed part of the dowry of women of the nobility. It moved from battlefield to ceremony while retaining its identity as a woman's weapon, an identity it had held for centuries. These warriors received extensive combat training and were educated to be equally skilled in the ways of the pen and the sword. They were not simply handed a weapon when the men left for war. They were prepared from youth for the possibility of combat, trained in strategy alongside martial arts, and expected to be capable of commanding a defense of their household without male supervision. The question is not whether they existed. The question is why history chose to forget them. The story of the Onna-bugeisha begins earlier than most people realize. Empress Jingū, said to have ruled between 201 and 269 CE, is one of Japan's earliest recorded female warriors. As the legend holds, Jingū led an invasion of the Korean peninsula while pregnant with the future Emperor Ojin. Whether every detail of that account is historically verified is secondary to what it reveals about how Japanese culture understood women in warfare at the time. A pregnant empress leading a military campaign is not a story that a culture tells about women it considers incapable of leadership. Almost 1,000 years later, the name that appears most often in the records of the Onna-bugeisha tradition is Tomoe Gozen. Tomoe Gozen served under the samurai lord Minamoto no Yoshinaka during the Battle of Awazu, part of the Genpei War in the late Heian period. She commanded 300 samurai against 2,000 warriors of the rival Taira clan during the war. Historical accounts describe her as a powerful fighter, the equal of 1,000, capable of dealing even with demons or gods. She was an archer, a swordswoman, a commander. At the Battle of Azu in 1184, accounts describe her cutting through enemy lines to protect her lord and beheading an opposing warrior in the process. Her legend was preserved in the Tale of the Hike, one of the most important literary works of the samurai era, a text that was recited, shared, and remembered for centuries. Tomoe Gozen was not the only woman of her era who took up arms. Hangaku Gozen fought in the Kenin Revolt in the early 13th century, commanding an army of 3,000 soldiers in defense of a castle against the forces of the Kamakura shogunate. She was struck by an arrow during battle, captured, and brought before the shogunate's leader, who, according to the accounts, was so struck by her bearing and courage that he arranged her marriage to one of his retainers rather than executing her. The records remember her as formidable even in defeat. Archaeological evidence suggests that women made up a higher percentage of Japanese armies than was previously thought from written records alone. This is where the bones come in. And this is the detail that should reframe everything. In the excavation of battlefield head mounds from the 1580 Battle of Senbon Matsubaru between Takeda Katsuyori and Hoyo Yujinao, DNA tests on 105 batas revealed that 35 of them were female. 2 excavations at other battlefield sites produced similar results. 35 out of 105. 1/3 of the dead at that battle were women. Not camp followers, not servants. Women buried in battlefield head mounds in the same configuration as male warrior dead. Written accounts of that battle do not mention women. The documentation of Japanese military history, produced and preserved largely by male scribes and scholars, did not record female participation at the scale that the ground is now revealing. The bones tell a different story than the texts, and the bones do not have an agenda. None of the excavation sites were siege situations, leading to the tentative conclusion that women fought in armies even though their involvement was seldom recorded. The last significant chapter of the Onna-bugeisha tradition is also among its most remarkable. The year is 1868. Japan is in the middle of the Boshin War, the conflict between forces loyal to the ruling Tokugawa shogunate and those fighting to restore imperial power. The domain of Aizu is one of the last holdouts of the old order. During the Battle of Aizu, Nakano Takeko led a unit of women fighters called the Joshitai, meaning women's army, trained in swordsmanship from childhood. Takeko felt duty-bound to defend Aizu against imperial forces. She and approximately 20 other women charged cavalry lines with naginata raised, cutting down several enemy fighters before Takeko was struck by a bullet in the chest. She was 21 years old. To prevent her capture, she asked her sister to behead her with her own sword. Her head was carried from the battlefield and buried at a local temple so that it could not be taken as a trophy. Today that temple still stands. A monument to Nakano Takeko marks the site. Every year, people visit it. The Meiji Restoration that followed brought a decline in the influence of the samurai, and limited women to domestic and traditionally feminine responsibilities. Consequently, the memory of the Onna-bugeisha started to wane. Historical depictions of female warriors and their accomplishments disappeared from view. A tradition that had existed for over 1,000 years, from Empress Jingū to Nakano Takeko, was quietly set aside. Not because it had not happened, because the new Japan being constructed in the Meiji era had a different story to tell about women. The Onna-bugeisha were never myths. They commanded armies, they died on battlefields, they were buried there. And for generations, the record that was kept chose not to fully say so. Drop a like if this history deserved to be told. Subscribe for more. And leave a comment which female warrior in this video surprised you the most.